Bayern have this history of just discarding guys that they think like no longer have any value, and I think a lot of times they get it wrong. And I think De Ligt is one of those guys where maybe he didn't hit, the ceiling that they wanted, but they discarded him too early, in my opinion. Alaba, yes, he was having some serious injury issues, and it's not as though he hit his top form for Real Madrid, so they're not totally missing out. But I think they'd be in a much different situation if he had stayed. Mario Mandzukic, they got rid of too early up front. There's just a long list. Ivan Perisic, I make the argument too. There's a long list of guys I think that Bayern got wrong and gave up too early on, and it's why they seem to be, I don't want to say overly aggressive, but in the case of Alphonso Davies, it does seem to be like there's this obsession with not screwing up again, yet they're not willing to kind of change their stance on things. Like it seems like Davies has been pretty clear. Like, okay, look, I think I'm worth 20 million, and that's market for guys at my level right now. Like, no, that's not us as a club. We're not going to do it. It's like, okay, New York Yankees, but that's how everyone else is playing right now. So like, what's going to move here? Like, just because you bought £100 million player doesn't mean you'll never have to do it again. Like, if you're going to stay in the mix amongst these elite buyers, then like this is the price. And right now, Alphonso Davies is elite, and if they don't want to pay that, they're going to lose him.
Well, they should know how hard it is to find quality players on the market, because you mentioned all these good players they've lost. Like, you think of, just think of that Champions League team of guys they lost. Lewandowski, okay, they replaced him with Kane. I think they did well there. But then you look at some of these other names that were standouts, like in midfield, like a Tolisso would play, some big minutes. Even Goretzka internally just hasn't been at the same level. Some of the center backs like Alaba, some of those guys that they had, it shows how it's not easy. Lucas Hernandez was a guy I was thinking about. They really miss a Lucas Hernandez for how good he was for Bayern during that year that they won the Champions League. So why not, when you have a guy like a Davies already internally, why not make the most of that? Because the thing is, if they get rid of him, fine. Who are you going to get to replace him? Because it's not going to be as easy, and you might have to shell out. If you want Teo Hernandez, AC Milan's not going to let him go for cheap. And in terms of other left backs, who else are you going to get other than that? It just makes it so weird the way they've been so reluctant to splash the cash. Because it might be a bit much from what they're used to, but the game's changing, and you kind of got to adapt. And it feels like the last 3-4 years since they won that Champions League, Bayern hasn't adapted, and that's why it feels like they've kind of dropped a level.